Oh, is this a friend? Okay. I knew this felt interrogation style. I knew it. Were you one of the people? Oh. Don't kill me. Oh my god. Yeah, though. People were calling it the Oxtail games. I was crying, yo. That shit was too funny. Yeah, no, I was following like 26,000 people. I was like, yo, I can't do this anymore. Normal timeline in regards to people that I actually follow and like have interest in knowing what's going on. I feel like I was just talking to my friends about this. Like when you're on these social media apps, you're essentially have the superpower of reading someone's mind like all the time, especially if they're an avid tweeter or Instagram story person or whatever. You can indulge in someone's life very easily. And I've always grown up saying if I could get one superpower, I would never want to read someone's mind because it's just I don't want to know all that. You know what I mean? There's some things that I definitely don't want to know. And so I feel like it was cluttering my mind a lot of the time, just taking all that information. And a lot of it just useless. I'm like, if I think of my brain as like a storage space, how much am I giving it to just useless nonsense? And like, how much more efficient could I be if I wasn't taking all that in? Mentally, I'm just trying to figure out if I should focus on one thing right now because I'm constantly like I just love to create, and so I'm constantly just creating new things. I don't get bored with things easily. I just get such fire new ideas that that I end up leaving old ideas behind. I don't think those old ideas are ever bad. It's just like I just have so many interests and I don't ever want to get boxed in because I've seen what that's done to other people in my field and how much that can affect your mental health just being some niche person that's all you can do, like that's what they know you for. And so like I've always looked up to people like Childish Gambino, Jamie Foxx, just multifaceted people. And I feel like on a smaller scale, I can still do all those things, but is it effective? Is it like, is everything gonna grow? You know what I mean? The way it's supposed to. So that's probably my biggest struggle right now. If I lived in like Cali or somewhere like where the weather was like decent at least in the winter months and all that stuff, I think maybe I'd be a little bit more inclined to be like, maybe I should like look for something a little bit more serious because then I could track and do all that. But this winter is it's more than enough to make me every winter. I'm like, oh, thank God I do what I do because then I don't have to leave the house and I can do everything from home. So I think that is a guiding factor as well as like I don't like being told what to do and especially not somewhere I don't want to be. Like that's the worst thing you could ever do is being told what to do somewhere you don't want to be. It's just and it's gonna end up in contention anyway. So there's no point in even investing in that. A lot of lucky accidents. Like I accidentally got invited to do the VJ search in 2009 and I accidentally got second place on there, then accidentally got 11,000 followers from it and accidentally made a viral video on YouTube, and then it's just a lot of these just things that just kept happening that I didn't intend for that to happen, but I wasn't mad at it, so I just ran with it. And yeah, I still kind of don't know what I'm doing. A lot of the times, like I don't know, like I can see an end goal, but in terms of what I let go, what I end up letting go, what I end up still creating at that point too, that is just blurry. Life before that was just fun, carefree, no bills, just living life, just partying. Like I was so young when I started doing like the whole social media YouTube stuff. I was like 21, 22 years old. So I didn't really like I don't know, at that point, I still didn't really know if I was gonna even do this long term. I didn't even know it was a business for the first 2, 3 years being on YouTube. And then one day they sent me a partnership and I made $1,100 just sitting there. And I was like, oh, okay, this is like a job. I can do this full time. And so before that, I was just living carefree, being very present, just day to day. There was no like thinking of long term anything. I don't see what the pressure could be anymore. Like before, it used to be like, oh, this person's doing this, I should be doing this because I did the same thing they did, and things like that. But now I'm at like I'm a big supporter of the term that like life is not short. It's actually pretty long, and like I've been on this earth 33 years, and if 33 more years, I'll be 66. I've lived a long time, in my opinion. It felt like a long life. So I feel like if I've accomplished all this and three-quarters of my life I didn't know what I was doing, like I'm actually just looking forward to the next couple years when I now that I know what I'm doing, I know how to execute things, like shit's only gonna get better. So I don't see a pressure. I can't. You just see everything that other people are accomplishing, and sometimes people are younger than you accomplishing, and you're like, oh, why isn't it me? Like I worked this hard and I did this and that, and just like not understanding that everyone's journey, you don't just do a certain amount of work and you just get to the next spot. It's There's still some luck that needs to happen. There's still some other things that need to happen and come into place. And I found a lot of times when I felt I was ready to do something, I got the rude awakening that you weren't years later. And like looking back at it, I was like, yo, why would I think I was ready to do this then? And now when you're like 10 times better at it, it's like you just get that perspective of like you shouldn't put the pressure on yourself because you weren't even ready then and you thought the world was gonna end. Especially when you're a social media person, you have to take in all this information. If you're doing pop culture as well, like you're investing in a lot of information of other people's lives. So it's a lot of times you got to just take time for yourself and just focus on your own life. And I've seen a lot of people, especially people that try to build their brand, specifically entertainers, they end up losing themselves because they're always the person. They're always on. Like if I was always that dude McFly, I'd probably go insane. And I think that's what people expect when they meet me sometimes is like, I'm gonna be the Jamaican guy that's just bouncing off the walls, always got a joke. And like, I used to feel that pressure, but now it's just like, nah, like I'm just gonna be me. And if I find time to relax, I'm definitely gonna take it. I was questioning it. Oh, am I funny? Like, is this like the field for me if things aren't progressing in a speedy fashion? Like, is it time to hang it up? Like, kind of what you were saying, where it's like, should I look for another job? Like, is that a thing? And um, yeah, I think after just kind of I honed in on what my skills were, I started watching more stand up and really studying it. I bought comedy books, read those, and just kind of like a lot of the things I was seeing was reinstilling all the things that I'm already doing. So I was like, okay, like I'm on the right path. Like regardless of how fast I need to get there, I'm doing the right thing. So maybe it's not that bad. And I think through that confidence that I got through that experience, everything else fell into place. I was not for a long time. And I think it took me getting humble to realize I wasn't humble for a bit. And even back then, I could honestly say I still thought I was humble because I wasn't making like ridiculous amounts of money. I knew I was still not a rich person by any means. But I knew that my what I had built up with my brand had gained me access to things a lot of people wish that they could do. And if at that moment it felt good and it felt like, oh, everything's happening as it's supposed to. Like I'm gonna be famous, I'm gonna be this and that. And once I kind of like had that moment of, am I even funny? Like all that, and just working my way out of that moment. I think it was just a realization of like, yo, for years you've been an arrogant prick. I don't think you ever get there. I think it's a constant journey. Like you get there and then you have a day where you fall. You know what I mean? Something happens and you take 15 steps backward. But I think it's the only thing that matters is that you're trying to be better. I don't think being perfect is an attainable goal or something you should even strive to be because your flaws, a lot of the things you perceive as flaws are why people like you. You know what I mean? So I think it's just a constant path, it's a constant journey of just getting better as a human being. And I think you reach a sweet spot. I don't want to be a perfect human being. I want to have some shit like that. Yeah, I want to be selfish sometimes. I want to be, you know what I mean? Like I want to lie conveniently to not hurt someone sometimes. Doesn't mean I'm not, I don't want, it doesn't mean I want to be a liar. Especially lately in the past couple of years, there's been a reawakening on social media of like just social consciousness rather. And I think with that, that also helped me like do more research into things and learn more history. And learning the history, man, is like the easiest way to just be like, okay, I shouldn't be that way. Because you can see what the cause and effect were and how it played out. So you don't need anything past that. Like a lot of times we're still in the cause, so we don't see the effect. And so looking back at a lot of history, especially when it comes to like women's rights and the whole equality conversation, I think a lot of that really opened my eyes to just fine tuning everything else in my life because it felt like everybody else seems to be on this journey. I think I don't want to be left behind. For some reason, people act as if the world is on social media and the world sees everything that's happening. And a lot of the times, if you come off Twitter and you mention a joke that happened specifically on Twitter, people look at you crazy. They won't understand it because you had to be on Twitter and see the whole story unfold for it to have some context. And so, in terms of the cancel culture now, when you see these salacious headlines that go up for clickbait, you see people getting quote unquote canceled for something that they said 10 years ago or whatever. Those people are all still fine. I can't name one person that's not. I can't name one person that's not still making money or hasn't capitalized off the opportunity. So at the end of the day, it's like, it seems like a witch hunt. It's like, what are we really doing? You can hold people accountable, but to erase their life and the things that they're doing, I don't think that makes any sense. Like as a comedian, there's a million times that happens, right? Because our job is like to find that line and not necessarily cross it, but push it as far as we can possibly push it until it can't anymore, right? So there's always gonna be times where you think of things that are just completely inappropriate. I just, in general, I don't think a comedian's mind works like most people's. Like we can go. I was at a funeral one time and thought of a joke, so it's like it's nowhere off limits. But in terms of like thinking of putting something out there, the only thing that I think that I ever took back was the Marlisha character that I had. I had a Marlisha character where it's like I was acting like a Toronto girl, and I had the baby fat jacket, I had the wig with the tag still on it, and I was saying and doing all these things in different videos, and I didn't enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like I'm like, why am I at the end of the day? I was like, why am I doing this? Like I seen tons of social media people and different actors use a black woman character. So I was like, okay, Shanae, Wanda, why don't I create my own version of that? And I saw it just doing more harm than good in terms of like the perception of black women off of the material of things that I was doing, especially when you have young impressionable minds that don't know better. They can come on there and take that as fact. You know what I mean? And I've seen personally what the media has done to stare people into boxes and to guide a narrative. Like I was just talking to my boy about the other day about how we didn't know who was sexy on TV until the crowd went, woo! Like even a girl you didn't think was hot or pretty. If the crowd did that, you're like, oh, she's a hot one. She's a pretty one. And that kind of like programs your mind. And especially if you're seeing every single show as like a blonde girl, blonde white girl, blonde white girl. And now you grow up and you wonder why that's your affinity. Like, why is that a preference for you? Um, I just don't like the way the media boxes people in and creates like a narrative for them. And I didn't want to contribute to that. They don't care how black people look. They just want the clicks. They just want the engagement. And there's no, a lot of empathy is lost in that game. A lot of humanity is lost in that game. When it comes to black lives, especially when you talk about black famous people, already famous people are just looked at with less humanity because they're rich. Life is great for them. What could they be mad about? You know what I mean? And then on top of that, you add the entire black narrative on top of everything else, and you get people that, I don't know. It just feels like I would never want to be famous. Let me put it that way. Like, I'm aiming for a mid tier level of fame. If I could be famous just in Toronto and make enough money to sustain myself, I'll take that. This is the thing. I think like you can find a way to be famous and still a person of the people. But I still think that there's gonna be something lost. It's like that. What is the alchemy quote? To obtain something of equal value must be lost. So if like you're gonna gain the world in riches and access and all these other things, like there's gonna be something that's left behind, and is it worth it? You know what I mean? Does that mean enough to you to leave certain things behind? And that's where I struggle. I don't know if I'm there yet in terms of, yeah, I want to get this level of fame, but now I can't go to the mall when I feel like it. I can't go to the bar when I feel like it. Little things like that. Like it seems very shitty, and it seems very lonely as well. It's interesting when people value your opinion, but with that comes a sense of responsibility when things do happen, especially that affect your own community and other people's communities that are marginalized. It's like, why wouldn't I speak up? Especially at the same time, like I, a lot of his impulse, like I see it, I get pissed, and I'm like, let me talk about it. And it's a hope of like not necessarily changing anyone's mind, but planting a seed in somebody who's probably not even thinking about it. You know what I mean? Like if you scroll past the timeline and see me ranting about something, if I see anybody ranting about something 10 times out of 10, I'm gonna be like, what's this about? What's going on? Then when I find out, I either decide to continue on or just move on with my day. So I like giving people that option to know what's going on and to rally behind certain causes. And I think it's important. I think it's everybody with a platform should be doing that. At the end of the day, you put people in situations where they feel the pressure to join and become family with people who can protect them and keep them safe and make sure that they have food on the table, make sure that they can have new clothes and all these other things. And if that's the avenue they take, then that's solely on the government. I feel like it's like you take away mad clubs, you take away mad after school programs, you take away funding out of so much shit that is keeping kids occupied, and then you don't expect them to turn up. It's unrealistic. You know what I mean? When you, especially when you look at the disparity between finances that are being pumped into certain schools and not certain schools, it's like obviously you're gonna see crime grow in this area. And how do I know it's not intentional? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, it's too many factors, too many variables that go into it.